Special address, and this time we're building for Bharat. We all know that India's next wave of growth is being driven by its untapped potential, Bharat. And as we solve for the next half a billion Indians, new opportunities are emerging across the sectors. So, our next speaker is about to delve into what's really fueling this transformation. We have with us Rahul Taneja, partner Lightspeed, our next speaker, who's joining us to literally let us know what is fueling this transformation that we're all eagerly looking forward to. So if I could please invite Mr. Rahul Taneja, partner Lightspeed, on stage. And can we also have a speedy round of applause, everyone? That's my cue to hand over the mic to Rahul. Over to you then.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. While we figure out the clicker, thank you all for being here and sharing your time. It's my absolute privilege and honor to share with you something about which we feel very, very strongly. We feel this is the next generation and the next engine of economic growth for India, which is what we call Bharat. Hopefully this works. It doesn't. Yeah. Before we sort of move forward, I want to share a quick anecdote. Now, we have a company where we've invested, which is building for Bharat out of a city called Trichy in Tamil Nadu. And I was there about a couple of weeks back. One of the people I met there is a guy called Rajiv. He's a 38-year-old shop owner. And I've been meeting him over the last couple of years. 2 years ago, this gentleman had a small kirana shop. Today, he has 2 shops. He's added a stationery shop. He uses digital accounting apps. He uses UPI for payments. But none of this is very surprising. None of this is exciting. The exciting bit is that I met his 10-year-old son who saw me using ChatGPT on my phone. And he asked if he could get a subscription to ChatGPT Plus. Now, when you think about the economic progress and the aspiration, you might think this is an anomaly, but this is not really an anomaly. We see these people time and time again, and we believe genuinely that this is the next engine for growth. And this is really what we call the missing consumption class. We've all heard of the headlines, unequal growth or growth in poles or growth in contradictions. But here's the amazing thing to think about. The amazing thing to think about is it's not like people living in Bharat, which is tier 2 and beyond, do not have spending power. It's not like they do not have aspirations. It's not like they do not have knowledge. I think so far they've not been served. They've not had access. And this is what is the job that people like us need to serve. This is why this is a population that we think is not starved but is waiting to rise, and that is what makes this a very large population. Now, what does a very large population really mean? We're talking about 500 million people. 500 million. That is not a statistic. That is not a number. That is a huge amount of money waiting to be created. Now, we are talking here of about 140 million households who are going to be spending their way through the economy in the next few years, right? Why is that important? These are people who have historically had very limited access, as I said. Maybe I'm now repeating myself. But these are people who are living in towns and cities, maybe from which some of us emerge ourselves, but now living the city, have often forgotten about, right? And this, to our minds, is not really a matter of policy, or it's not a matter of upliftment. It's a matter of a core business strategy. What is driving this revolution really? We believe there are 2 engines powering this economic revolution. The first engine is the democratization of internet. I think enough people have spoken about it. As of last year now, the internet penetration in rural India is now 37%. 37% does not sound like a grand number, but when you think about it, this is 350 million people with internet access, looking for content, looking for financial services, looking for consumption. In all, it's a very, very large number. And now increasingly you see retail formats penetrating, right? I was on a holiday maybe a couple of months back in Almora, and I saw a shopkeeper there ordering coffee because that is what some of his new customers were looking for, coffee that was not available there, and receiving it in a matter of 2 days. None of this was heard of, none of this was possible, and that is net new value creation that is happening for him. And we believe this is really how this transformation will happen. But the underlying piece of this is also that a lot of Indian population is accessing a much larger income pool. We now know that that magic number is about 3 lakh rupees per year of household income, or what we've called $4,000 here. Once that magic number hits is when discretionary spend starts to go up. And that is why we think this is now the timing is right. There are about 60 million such households who are going to be created in the next 3 years. And 60 million households is roughly about 200 odd million people who will be wanting access to goods and services. The interesting thing is not that goods and services are needed. The interesting thing is that consumption patterns are changing. And it's evident across different categories. Let's talk about maybe 2 or 3 different categories. The first one is QSRs, or quick service restaurants. For those of you who follow either Devyani or Jubilant, and you see the quarterly results, you'll see that more than 50% of the net new QSR additions are now happening outside of tier 2 towns. That is essentially what is driving growth for those companies and their stock prices. If you look at automotive, two-wheeler growth has been 150% in rural versus what is in urban today. In fact, in the last Bajaj quarterly results as well, they mentioned that the growth that is now happening net is largely resulted of rural. Now, of course, rural people have different definitions. In their minds, anything beyond tier 3 is rural, but that is what is driving growth. If you look at entertainment, 70 to 80% of net new subscriber ads that is happening for OTT or for YouTube is happening outside of the metros. So yeah, I mean, look, everyone sees these data points. But what is really happening underneath that? I think the interesting thing that is happening underneath this is that this is not a territory where incumbents are making hay. This is also a territory where there is brand new players and brand new formats who are taking advantage and growing. Look at Meesho, 45 million monthly shoppers buying on Meesho, and 90% of them are beyond tier 2 towns. Look at delivery, which is enabling Flipkart or Amazon to grow. They've created access to 95% of PIN codes in India, and now are seeing deliveries happening in more than 90 of the 95% PIN codes. So I think there is new formats that are getting created, there is new access that is getting created, and most importantly, this is therefore creating opportunities for entrepreneurship, which is what people like us are in the business to fuel, right? But, there are, I would say, maybe in our minds, 4 core themes where we believe a lot of this value creation will happen. The first value creation theme will be retail, where there is about $100 billion of retail spend waiting to happen by 2030. These are not my numbers. These are numbers that I'm reading off Niti Aayog. I'm reading from McKinsey reports. I'm reading from a lot of people who've done a lot more deeper work are indicating that this is where the consumption pool will be. And therefore, retail or retail formats is where we think a large chunk of value creation will happen. Energy. Now, EV adoption, solar rooftop adoption, all of these are interesting trend lines, but they are starting to happen in these territories much more than in urban India. Even the government's Kusum Yojana on solar irrigation, you can see the uptake on that happening in rural areas heavily. And therefore, this is giving us the conviction that in the energy space, is where again large companies will get created, and therefore there is opportunity for people like us. If you look at food, again, while some of these formats are very different, a lot of formats are getting created around local cuisine instead of what historically was very Western cuisine driven. We see that is the third opportunity. And finally, as the population continues to be young and the population continues to spend time and energy in looking good, we believe fast fashion is where a large chunk of value creation will happen. It's evident in people like Zudio who are growing 30-35% year on year. And same store growths are fantastic. In fact, I was chatting with somebody at Zudio and they told me one of their most fast growing stores is in Jharsuguda. I don't know how many people here know where Jharsuguda is. Jharsuguda is in Odisha. It's not one of the biggest cities. It's not Bhubaneswar. It's not Cuttack. Jharsuguda, the Zudio store, generates about 3 crores in annual sales. So there is, this is another big chunk of where value creation will happen. In fact, the same gentleman at Tata Trent who I was chatting with told me, when they were scouting for a place in Bilaspur, they realized there are tailors there who look at Instagram every week and send out a new catalog of fashion designs to their customers. You can call this fashion subscription, you can call this whatever you will, but there is interesting themes like this starting to happen, which tells you, okay, customers are looking for new things. How can we as business leaders or as investors cater to this demand and help them create access in a much more efficient manner? And finally, I would say the mega theme that we feel very, very good about is that Indian customers are now starting to financialize their savings. Historically, we would park our money in gold, in FDs, and feel very good about securing them at low interest rates or low IRRs. But people are now starting to financialize their savings a lot. More than about 110% growth in Demat accounts in Bharat. That's happening right now. About 40% of net new mutual fund subscriptions are coming from outside of the metros. So these are customers who now realize that, my life will move in 2 lanes. I'm not just going to either save or spend. I want to do both. And for that, I need access to credit. I need access to investment avenues. And we've, over the last 3-4 years, we've been investing very heavily in this theme and growing that. It tells me my time is up, so we'll just run through this. In summary, I would say that, we feel very, very optimistic. We feel very happy that this is happening. And I think we feel that this is the time for us to invest heavily in creating businesses across Bharat. As Lightspeed, we have a portfolio of about 120 companies, of which already I think about 18 companies are catering to this segment of the population. And this is, I'll sound mercenary for saying this, but look, we are in the business of delivering returns to our investors. And for us, therefore, this is not a matter of, hey, let's uplift. This is a matter of core business strategy. And we are in this because we believe there is huge amounts of economic potential to be delivered here. So thank you for your time. And in ending this, I would just say that, whenever I meet people at conferences like this, a lot of talk is about, there is a new chapter being written in the history of India's economic growth. I think a lot of chapters have been written. This is perhaps the latest new chapter that is waiting to be written over the next decade. And I think a lot of us in this room can be co-authors of this chapter. So I would encourage all of you to please look a lot more actively at investing in Bharat. Thank you so much.